Hi, I'm Trina Schramm and I'm 31 years old. I was born with a rare chronic condition called Camptodactyly Arthropathy Coxa Vara Pericardial Syndrome. My mom noticed my symptoms fairly early in life. Uh, she noticed that I never crawled, I just rolled as a baby and never crawled. I progressed from rolling straight to walking. And I guess I was late for that, and I guess I followed my grandmother's cat the first time I walked, which, says a lot about me as a person, as an adult. Let's see. My mom noticed I was never able to straighten my hands as a baby. So, and by the time I was probably 18, 20 months old, she was pregnant with my younger brother. I had my first surgery on both my hands. Um, it'll be the top scar that you can barely see, and it goes across from my middle finger to my baby finger on both hands. I clearly don't remember it. I don't really remember feeling different than other kids until I was in kindergarten. And we'd go to sit on the floor and I couldn't sit crisscross applesauce like all the kids. Or I'd put my hand down and kids would try to step on them to make them flatten out. I don't know. My mom had been taking me to different doctors throughout all this time, and this is early 90s, sometime in there. I must have lived in Wausau in British Columbia, because my records say, I'm pretty sure they say Cranbrook Orthopedics, and an orthopedic surgeon said I had Coxa in my hips, which is rare in, the normal population. The rest of my childhood was spent, I moved to Ontario at some point, 97, and my childhood was spent doctor's appointments. The summer between grade 4 and 5, I had the pinky finger on my right hand opened up again and splinted. No, it was on my left hand, and I had it opened up and splinted. They did a tendon release. I was seeing an orthopedic surgeon who my mom wouldn't let do surgery because she didn't like him. My pediatrician kept sending me on and off to rheumatologists, and every rheumatologist would say, I can't treat her because she doesn't have rheumatoid arthritis. They'd do the tests would come back negative. Finally, my pediatrician sent my file to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, and Dr. Laxer himself called my mom and asked how quickly we could get up there. This was, when I was in grade 8. Around grade 7, I'd had surgery on both of my thumbs because they had collapsed inwards like this. On my right hand, I just had a tendon release, scraped off, splinted open. On my left hand, I ended up having a tendon replacement because there was a near tendon rupture and they had to move the tendon from the middle of my left hand to the thumb. And there was a stitch that went through a button on top of my thumb to hold this tendon in place. And on my splint, there was a hook in which an elastic went from this stitch to the hook to hold everything in place. It was kind of nasty. I had issues. in grade 8, I finally saw Dr. Laxer. He immediately, this was 2001-ish, he immediately, started me on medication. Like, they said I was HLA-B27 positive, as well as having CACP, and put me on naproxen to help relieve some of the pain. Shortly after that, they started doing the genetic testing for my family, and for myself, I had the synovial fluid test done. They cut a hole in my knee, took the fluid. A doctor, Dr. Warman, came up from the States, and took stuff. Dr. Laxer and Dr. Hall, I believe, she was a resident from Australia at the time, I think, put me on Enbrel. Things stayed for a few years. I got out of pain. They upped my medication, my other medication. Oh, they put me on Indicid, and my liver enzymes went nuts. So they took me off of Indicid, said they couldn't put me on MTX. Naproxen wasn't enough, they said, and put me on Enbrel. I was on Enbrel for a couple years till I'd gotten the flu really badly and went off of it, and it just wasn't working for me, doing anything, so they put me on Celebrex. Yeah, I was on Celebrex for a couple years. I kept missing all sorts of school for appointments. I was always getting letters saying I was going to be kicked out of school, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. Socially, I felt like I was behind socially because I was never able to, keep up with people, go out in the evenings or party. I went to the occasional school dance. I couldn't participate in gym class. I was always getting pulled out of classes for things like physiotherapy and occupational therapy. Tuesday nights, I went to a group session for teenage girls with physical disabilities. It was a lot of girls with cerebral palsy and spina bifida. I was the only one with arthritis among us. What else? Okay, yeah, I sometimes didn't like that I had to miss so much school. In elementary school, the kids always made fun of me, because I was different. I couldn't run and play in gym class. I don't know what else. I moved a lot, so that has nothing to do with the arthritis, but everything to do with how I felt like I didn't fit in socially. As an adult, when I aged out of the sick kids services, things were rough because we'd moved in that time period. I had went away to Quebec. I'd missed paperwork. I didn't get I still to this day have no idea who my referral was to when I wanted, and they were sending me to an adult rheumatologist from the children's services. I spent, I don't know, the first half of my 20s ignoring the fact that I, basically had this arthritis. I didn't go to a single rheumatology appointment. Initially, at some point in my mid-20s, Dr. Laxer and the team had got a hold of me through calling my old pediatrician to call my family doctor, who passed on my phone, who contacted me and had me contact them. And they'd sent me some paperwork to be in continued studies, and I signed it, sent it back, and never heard anything. I probably should have called them again, but it was my early to mid 20s, I was just starting to deal with anxiety, not knowing I had it yet, and yeah. Then my 25 hit, and I'd asked to see a rheumatologist because, well, I was starting to notice like the arthritis issues were really coming back. Like all through my early 20s, I found myself getting stiffer and more fatigued. Like I went from basically being able to do most of a week, like a full-time school week, full-time work kind of thing, like part-time work, full-time school, and then to like a full-time job. And I just found myself like really unable to work the full-time hours. And like I went down to like an office job, and I'd started getting really sick when I was there all the time. And then I tried to go back to school, and I found like it was just a lot all the time. So I asked to see a rheumatologist. I got referred to see one. I asked my family doctor. I got referred to see a rheumatologist. The rheumatologist was like, "There's nothing I can do for you, so I'll put you in touch with an orthopedic surgeon and the Arthritis Society." So I saw the Arthritis Society. They basically gave me a list of adaptive equipment I could use. I had to go get all the quotes. I never finished it because it was too much work. And then and then I dropped out of school due to what I now know was like major depression and anxiety, and tried to work again. um I don't know from there. It's just I kind of made a decision and moved. I saw the orthopedic surgeon. He didn't really want to do anything. He gave me like the resident was like, "Oh, you qualify for a hip replacement. We'll start filling out this forms." The orthopedic surgeon was like, "No, you're too young. You won't get hip replacements. I won't even go near them till you're in your 30s. I'll give you a cortisone injection and maybe refer you to see someone to get the bone spurs taken off." And I got the cortisone injections and they didn't do anything. So I didn't really continue following up with him. Okay, in this time period, I moved to another city. My diabetes had gotten really bad because my family doctor. This has nothing to do, well, with my CACP, other than the fact that I can't exercise as much as I'd like to. Like, if I walk a kilometer, I was achingly sore. My hands are getting progressively worse. Oh, I'd also had a referral to get my right pinky finger looked at from my hand orthopedic surgeon. And it's like, yeah, so my hand orthopedic surgeon looked at it. We decided to fuse the finger. And I went on a surgical waiting list, and I waited and waited and waited. I waited like 6 months. I literally moved cities in that time. I'd moved cities. I'd moved an hour and a half south of where I had been living, which was an hour and a half away from that surgeon. So I waited like 6-8 months, didn't hear back. And then I got a letter, "Oh, thanks, now please support our fundraisers, blah, blah, blah." I got achingly mad and started to cry, and I just sat on this wait list forever. Like, by the time I didn't hear from them for another year after that, when they called me up and are like, oh, we found your file and you're really behind on a wait list and we've got a doctor coming off of maternity leave. Would you like to see her? So I saw her. I didn't really like her. So I'm like, no, I'll just stay on the waiting list for the surgeon who's already done like 5 of my hand surgeries at this point over the last like 20 years. So, and then I get a phone call from them like a couple months later, 3-4 months later. I get a phone call, can you come in tomorrow to get your hand surgery? And I'm just like, no, I live 3 hours away. I can't get there for tomorrow whatsoever. They're like, okay, well, you're like pretty much next on the waiting list. So you're pretty soon coming up soon, so we'll just call you again. And then, I don't know, 2 months later, they called me again. They're like, we've got a week. Can you come in? I'm like, yes. Tell me the date, tell me the time, and I will be there. I could make things work with a week worth of advance time. So I called my parents, told them what was going on. We cleared our schedules. I went, got the hand pinning. They put the screws in, the plate in. It's far more comfortable. I can now like reach around a can where I couldn't before. I just crush everything with my finger. Using anything without a handle was getting pretty much impossible. So I got my hand done. It healed up. I kept having to go back every 6 months until, I had to go back every 6 months because these screws in my finger are too long. So, yeah, there's that. I finally just had my last appointment. The surgeon told me, call him up if there's ever really any issues of it rubbing the tendon or the plate rubbing through the side of my finger, which is something I've had a little bit of issue with before, but nothing serious. Now, that brings us up to this year. So last year, somewhere in there, I got a new family doctor, like my old family doctor in my hometown retired. So, and then with him retiring, I'm like, finally I can get a new family doctor, and the clinic near me, the nurse practitioner was taking patients. So I'm like, you know what? I'll go see. I'm like, I know I've got complicated conditions, but it works. So I went and saw her. It felt like a really good meeting, so I stayed with her, and we had a good physical, a good chat. She's been a good point of referrals for me. Like, she went and got me hip x-rays and referred me to a new orthopedic surgeon. That orthopedic surgeon sent me for and like 5 more x-rays. Took a look at my hips, and then he takes one look at my knees and says, you have knee issues. He's like, do your knees bother you too? I want x-rays of them as well, which was amazing. So I went and got x-rays. He looked at my x-rays with me. We talked about what I wanted. He talked about those bone spurs. He's like, I don't have the expertise to take them off, so I might have to send you to someone else. He's like, I can see we're after hip replacement because these are terrible hips, and like he showed me exactly like what exactly was going on, where I was bone and bone, and like the Camptodactyly shape or the Coxa Vara shape of my hips, and he was actually really informative and like a really good surgeon. So he referred me to an MRI. I got an MRI within 3 weeks, which is unheard of. So I had that MRI. And then I had to wait another month to see him because he was on vacation. But whatever, I can live with that. So like 2 months had gone by. And then he looked at my MRI. And he's like, okay, so it's just a matter of which hip do you want replaced first? They're so bad. So we talked it out. I decided to go left first. I probably should have went right first, but no, I went and got my left hip done first. We went and looked at the schedule. He was booking a year in advance. So I booked my hips. I'm like, I'll take these dates. I don't care that they're a year out. I didn't bother getting on the cancellation list because I always need more time than that kind of list gives me. So I booked for a year out for February and April. And I ended up getting them in March and May due to my 24 hours before my hip replacement was scheduled in February. I was called and canceled on due to hospital staffing issues, probably. So they said it was equipment issues. It might have been equipment issues. It might have been staffing issues. It might have been beds full. I don't know. So I had my left hip replaced this year. I had my right hip replaced this year. I had some issues with my left in that it took me a while to get out of bed. It took me a while to be able to walk after the surgery. Like, I just couldn't put, like, I'd put weight on my leg, or like my 50% weight, or anything. And when I tried to walk, I would start to pass out. So basically, it was just I had to stay an extra couple days till I wasn't almost passing out walking. And then I had to stay another couple days in the hospital after that while waiting for home services to be set up. Yeah. So I was in the hospital for a week total. I was annoyed. I was exhausted. I was black and blue. Like, I was so bruised from the needles for the blood thinners, from where the IVs had been, from the surgery itself. I was black and blue pretty much from knee up to my boobs, pretty much. I was just completely black and blue. Obviously tired all the time. I'd go home. I went home. I basically had to be walked up. Like, I had one parent on either side of me helping me walk up the steps, which is a little tough, you know? And so then they get me in the house. We get sat down. They take my shoes off. I don't even really remember. I'm just happy to be home. I go crawl in my bed, stick a pillow between my legs, take a painkiller, and go to sleep. And then that's like my routine. Painkiller, sleep, up for a short walk around the house, like go to the bathroom, walk through the living room, and then go back to sleep. And I do like a little bit of physio, like some toe tapping and all of this. Like, I'm constantly moving my ankles and my feet to keep my blood circulated. I'm wearing these terrible, super tight compression stockings to help with the swelling and to prevent blood clots. I'm on blood thinners. I'm on iron pills because I was anemic. I'm having to take like extra vitamins, whatever, all of this. And then it's like a whole month before I can start out of home physiotherapy. And it's just like, I'm crabby by then because it's like a lot of people all on top of each other. I'm still hurting. And then I start physio and it's just really light at first. And then I have to stop 3 weeks later because I'm having my next hip done. Okay, so with having my next hip done, it was different. Like, I had still, like, the spinal, and I'd let them know I'd had massive nausea issues, blah, blah, blah. So they gave me more anti-nausea meds right from the start. My spinal, when they went to put it in, they hit a nerve, and it felt like my legs were on fire. Like, I screamed, and then I'm like, okay, no, it's not right, because they're asking me, like, how I'm feeling, whether my legs are going numb, and then I just scream. Finally, they, like, got it positioned right to where my legs were numb. And at that point, I'm starting to go out from the anesthetic, like, not fully out, but partially out. And at one point during the surgery, I start to wake up a little, and I'm kind of looking around. I can't really feel anything, which is nice. And then I go back under. And then I wake up as I'm being pushed to the recovery room. So, like, I'm alert by the time I get to recovery. Whereas the previous surgery, I was kept in recovery, like, so long because I wasn't waking up. So this time I woke up, I was alert in recovery. I'm trying to move my toes and trying to stay nauseous, telling them just warm water, not cold. So they're working with me, and I finally get my feet moving, and they finally get a bed open down in the orthopedic ward. I get moved down there. Things are going along really well. I got a little nauseous. Started puking. Everyone in the room was great for calling nurses. They didn't give me right to the anti-nausea med that I was supposed to get right away. They kept wanting to give me Gravol. My surgeon came in and checked on me. I'm like, no, I'm really nauseous. So he goes to the nurses and are like, change your meds to this. And then the next day, they take out my catheter and they're like, okay, it's time to get up. They try to get me up, and I couldn't put any weight at all on my leg. My knee was killing me. My pain was so high. My leg was 4 times the size of normal, and my knee was stiff. So, like, I'd been doing ankle pumps, but, like, when they got me out of bed, they tried to get me on a walker. And I just 2 seconds and I'm back in bed, and then they're like helping me adjust my knee because I couldn't do it. And I fall back asleep. They're like, okay, so it's gonna take a while. So then the next day they walk with me again. I'd had my crutches brought up because I'm like, no, I'm not going on the walker. It's too hard. It didn't work for me with the last surgery. I was moving better when I got on crutches. So then I got on crutches with the physio at the hospital, and she was impressed because she's like, I thought we were going to end up keeping you for another couple days because I wasn't walking. So they let me use the crutches and have a nurse follow me to the bathroom, which is nice because I couldn't use the bedpan. I'm a shy peer. I've hardly ever been able to use public bathrooms for, well, pretty much forever. So yeah, then I had that experience. I got home on the 4th morning, which was so nice. I was ready for my own bed because it's softer than the hospital beds. So I got home and I went to bed. Like, we took a cab, I got home, climbed up the steps, took my clothes off, and went to bed. And that's that. And then it's like just doing that, little bits of recovery. Just completely increasing the amount I want to walk the whole time. And then I start my physio a month in. and I'm working on it. And by the time I was done, I could lift 2 pounds on my right ankle, 3 pounds on my left. But I'd started having SI joint issues. Like, with CACP, I guess I should have started, but this turned into my hip replacement story. But with CACP, I have a lot of major joint issues. I've got, like, both of my hands look like this. Neither of my arms fully straighten. That. And that. I've had both my hips replaced. My neck is always stiff. My toes are curled, and I don't really know how to show that in this video. Probably can't. But yeah, my toes are curled. My knees are quite painful. My sacroiliac joints have been murder since my hip replacements. Like, I find they cause a lot of pain when walking now. I'm still having some muscle weakness, but that's not the CACP, so yeah, my ankles have been a point of contention. It's like all my major joints are just really bad. Like toes, ankles, knees, hips, elbows, wrists, hands, neck. My shoulders are generally okay. Like, I have decent range of motion in my shoulders. I don't know, that's it for now. Bye.